welcome to Run, Build, Grow, the podcast that laces up its running shoes and dives deep into the heartbeat of the communal spirit of running. I'm your host, Andrew Ware, the Runnin' Rev, and I'm thrilled to take you on this exhilarating journey where we explore stories that go beyond the pavement. In this episode, I am so excited to welcome in Allison Mercer of the Atlanta running area. She just brings this amazing embodiment of experience, embodiment of passion and joy to the sport of running. And I think you can see it. She wants to help to uplift stories of all of these great and wonderful people, especially when it comes to highlighting the work of women and what they are doing in this sport. You know, she works with Trail Sisters. She is the founder of FKT, a website that tracks all of the fastest known times on a lot of these great and wonderful historic trails and really trying to highlight these experiences. And so this is a great opportunity to sit down and to hear what has been impactful in her journey. So let's take a listen to Allison's story. All right, welcome in everybody. This week I'm joined by Allison Mercer. Allison, how you doing?
Right now I'm doing well, just recovering from all the snow from my run this morning. In Georgia, we don't get snow. We maybe get ice, we maybe get a little dusting, but what we've gotten this morning, it's wild. I feel like I'm in Colorado or some kind of area that's used to snow. So I'm a little like, what's going on here?
No, this is great because, so let's see, I think when I interviewed Kathy Butler, she had snow in her backyard, but she lives in Colorado, so it was normal for her. I think when I had Joe on, he had said there was snow in Detroit, but again, normal. So we Southerners, we don't often have to deal with a whole lot of snow, so it's definitely an adventure for us. But good to hear that you're still getting the miles in, not letting it slow you down. Allison, let's start off at the top where I start every podcast. What is your community and what makes your community awesome?
Oh my gosh, like where do I even begin with that? And what's wonderful about my community is inclusiveness. And that's how I even got started running, is someone inviting me in and making me feel welcome. And honestly, in Atlanta, it doesn't matter where you run. There's always someone there. There's always someone to run with. There's always a group or someone you can join. And that's what I love. Like, runners just want people to feel included and join in the fun and maybe just the runner's high.
I was going to say, it really is kind of that thing. And a lot of folks, look at us funny because we're like those weird runner kids. But what is it about that feeling of running that just for you is so filled with, joy, passion? What makes you want to share it with other people?
I think it's the shared experience. I mean, like the snow this morning, and to have that just for yourself and to talk about it, express it, enjoy it with someone else just makes it so much more worthwhile to me. And I feel like on our run, especially us long distance people, we're out there for a while. So how else are you going to pass the time? By getting to know someone, having these deep discussions. I feel like the friends that I have that I run with know so much more about me than just the casual, superficial talk. It's deep discussions about everything and really a good sounding board to have.
And as you're growing as a runner, that's such an important and crucial thing that I often think about. And I was just reflecting on this, that running clubs, running communities often become more than just about the run, right? And I think and you're talking about inclusivity and what it means to be an inclusive community and a welcoming community. How important does that become for running communities to be more than just running, for it to be almost encapsulate this social aspect, this comforting aspect, this empathy aspect, like all of these different things? How important has that been, and what role has that continued to play in your journey as well?
I think a huge part is also the accountability you have when you're running with someone, on a day like today. It'd be like, oh, it'd be so easy to sleep in, hop on a treadmill, but to have someone that's going, oh, we'll go out. It's just, an easy way to start the day, which I love to do. I'm a huge morning morning runner. But also, I feel like with running, sometimes you get injured, sometimes life happens. And I feel like it's nice to have the people that check in on you and know you and just a runner and know other personalities and other ways to hang out, like getting coffee after people are running or just making sure that you're okay. Because sometimes when we're not running, it can be kind of sad, depressing, and you get that FOMO and you see everyone else running on Strava, but to still have that feeling of being included when you can't be part of every discussion.
So what did your start look like in Atlanta in the running community? How did you get going in there? I mean, how did you get going as a runner, as a participant in the community? I mean, you volunteer with them, you do all this other stuff. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, for me, I lack this thing called hand-eye coordination. And I'm tall, I'm about 5'9". So my dad's tall as well. And he thought, oh, she's going to play basketball. It's going to be great. He is an athlete himself. But unfortunately, I fall up the stairs. So running was something I defaulted to, and swimming in high school and in college. So it was just one thing I could do and just go all in. It wasn't sprinting for me. And that's just what I did, especially after college when I worked in television and the hours were not very accommodating for a lot of group activities. It something I could do and just go out the door and go anytime I was traveling was running.
Hmm.
So slowly got into that. And then when I could make a group run, I would. But once I stopped in the TV industry and was able to have business hours, I guess you could say, I could start doing group runs and other activities and really started getting into a more routine schedule and learned about these things called marathons. And obviously that led to a gateway of ultras, trails, and all the different other adventures I've been able to do in my running journey.
And as you started to get more comfortable, as you started to find these distances, running is a gateway to everything, right? Your first 5K leads to your 10K, leads to your half, leads to your full, leads to your ultras, unless you're me. And then you just kind of stop at half marathons because that's the extent of things. But it really is like a gateway sport where you have that one time where you do one thing in running and then it sparks the next passion and you keep going. And sometimes you find the extent of those passions, but sometimes they change. Sometimes they revolve around. And so what was it like for you exploring in that time, moving from different distance, growing and becoming, the ultra runner you are today?
I mean, for me, it's just having someone that believes in you, that believes that you can do it. For me, I wouldn't have ever thought I would be able to do any of this, but seeing other people doing it. And it was funny because the way I got into trail running was on a Tinder date. So it was just wild. A guy I was talking to, he was like, we'll go on the trails. Like, you'll be fine. You're a runner. I'll make sure that you're okay. You totally can handle it. And I was very apprehensive. I was like, once again with my falling and my
Yeah.
clumsiness, I was very apprehensive. But having someone that was like, "You'll be fine," you know, worked out well, obviously, and I really appreciate him for helping me get the confidence to do trails and continue on to that. And then just finding groups with similar mindsets of exploring trails and also seeing if they can do it, then I can do it too. And having that accountability to put in the miles, to put in the training, to lead you to have success in those distances. I think, friends can be good at peer pressuring you into anything, but also kind of letting you believe in yourself and giving you that mindset that you can do it.
Well, and I think especially with trail running, what a great way to express like the communal spirit of running. And so I remember one of the first times that I ever did a trail run was with my Richmond group when I lived up there. And it was kind of like no runner left behind, right? They'd stop every so often. They'd make sure everybody got to the spot. I remember the person even saying at the start, it's like, look, your pace, it's not going to be what it normally is. You're an 8-minute mile pace. Today we're doing 11, 12, 13 minutes. We're going to stop. We're going to make sure everybody's getting through. How important for you was that in the early days of trail running, and how has that helped to foster you as you look towards helping other trail runners sort of find this love and passion?
Oh, for sure. As a co-leader of Trail Sisters, it's one thing that I emphasize because I know when I was starting out, I would go to some group runs and I would just get dropped immediately. And I would get lost and I would be very nervous because sometimes in Atlanta, it can be a little sketch. So to have that on the trail, I definitely did not want to foster that kind of community and instill that kind of risk. So what I love about our Trail Sisters group runs is no one gets left behind. It doesn't matter if you can run a 6-minute mile or a 60-minute mile. We're going to make sure that our pace is accommodating to everyone and making sure everyone feels comfortable, because I don't want someone to have that experience that I did and not want to come back and kind of have that memory of this is how trail running is, because that's not how it should be. Someone should feel always welcome to come, and that shouldn't be a barrier for them to try out trail running or just running in general, especially a first time, because doing anything for the first time is intimidating in itself. And even more so, I feel like as an adult, like sometimes if I'll go to a new group run, I am nervous and I'm like, I'll probably know someone. Atlanta community is very small, but I still get very intimidated and I get very shy, and I am very much an extrovert. So for me to feel intimidated, I can only imagine what someone else would feel.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing, helping folks feel safe, because to me, part of a welcoming community has that. And sometimes it might be a little bit easier when you're, meeting in large crowds, when, you're meeting at the brewery, the coffee shop, they're really easy places, even when the group runs are with other people. I imagine it's a lot different when you're asking someone to meet at a trailhead with maybe, I don't know how big, but 10, 15, maybe 20 people meeting for a trail run. What are you and your co-leaders doing to help make sure that these folks are feeling welcome, included, that they're feeling safe? How are you creating that environment?
Introducing ourselves, being very transparent on where we're meeting, what the route is. Do they feel comfortable with that distance? Do they have the proper gear? Making sure that everyone knows what they're signing up for. And also just asking the common questions and waiting, making sure, like, if it's dark, like, do they have a headlamp? It's just the little things that some of us may take for granted, but someone as a first timer may not even think about. So just being as proactive as possible and just keeping the everyone in mind that, we assume a lot of things. And I'm also a project manager, so logistics and planning is like paramount in what I do.
Yeah.
And I use it for every aspect of, my life. So one part is as a leader, making sure that everyone else is accounted for.
Yeah. And, for those of you who are listening, even not in the trail community, but even on the roads, even when you're doing, your local run clubs, I think this is such an important thing for us, because we're creating an environment, like Allison said, that is allowing people to feel safe in the space. And especially in running, we're asking people to be vulnerable because we're tiring ourselves out. We're doing a lot of work. A lot of times when we're running, we're mentally, physically, we feel at our worst, right? We're struggling. And so as you're encouraging runners in the community, what sort of what sort of things are you doing? How are you helping others to, get the most out of themselves? And how have others helped you make sure that you're not just kind of like, oh, it's a tough day. You could get those miles in, but you're just feeling rough. What's that motivation look like from both standpoints?
Honestly, I'm such a chatty person on the run that I try to make sure that people aren't thinking about the run itself and the pain because we're all experiencing it. And like you say, it sucks sometimes. Like in
Mm,
Georgia when it's 90 degrees out or, it's just unbearable that you just try not to think about it. You try to get a subject. What better way to talk to someone or get to know someone than to ask about themselves? And
mm,
sometimes people may not want to talk and they'll just say, hey, tell me a story. One thing I also love to do in the Atlanta community is pace a lot of races. So I'm used to just chatting incessantly and, just making sure people are occupied with something else on the run. We're not always listening to music. So it's always fun to have someone that can be that chatty Cathy, if you will, or someone that's wanting to listen and kind of have a really good conversation to make you, help the miles go by. And that's really helped me and helped me grow as a runner. And I appreciate that with someone else that is willing to carry on a conversation and, just help the miles fly.
yeah. What's that like being a pacer? It's something I've always wanted to do. I've wanted to do it for a couple of years now, but I've been in this injury cycle where I haven't even been able to race. But what's that like for you as a pacer? How has that allowed you to kind of take the next step as a leader in the Atlanta running community? How has it allowed you to connect with other runners, other run crews, all of these things?
Oh my gosh, it is an absolute blast for me. Oh my gosh, where do I even begin? Pacing for me, it can be a lot more nerve-wracking um, than just racing itself because people are relying on you. People
Mm,
are putting your skill set and doing math to make sure you're hitting the paces in your shoulders. And it's an honor because, you're helping people achieve their goals. You're helping people attain these goals that maybe they didn't think they could achieve and just
mm,
relieving the pressure where all they have to do is run. And for me, I love that. Like usually when you do like a 2 hour marathon pace group, people seeing that 1:59, their eyes just light up and they're like, I did that.
yeah.
Or, if you're doing another one and I think one of my favorite times pacing was when I was single. I chatted with my best friend. I told her we're not going to talk for 2 weeks, so we have so many stories. And literally for that whole race, all we did was catch up. I was telling her my latest like dating escapades, and literally, like even at like mile 10, everyone was like, "So what happened next?" And I was like, people are listening. And afterwards, they were like, this was the most fun I've ever had in a race. You literally did not stop talking, but it was so interesting. And after that, I was like, you know what? This is fun. Like, and that's what running should be. It's fun, it's entertaining, and you're providing a service and like a fun activity for other people to share in that fun experience.
What is it about those times where you're helping others? Like, is that something that you were drawn to when you started in the Atlanta community? Is that something that has kind of developed over time? What's given you that passion to want to give back to Atlanta?
I mean, I feel like running is always says it's a selfish sport, it's an individual sport. And for me, I'm like, I kind of want to, I don't believe in that.
Hmm.
Like we talk about with community, I wouldn't be able to do what I've been able to do without the support and encouragement from others. So I want to pay that forward. And I want to show my gratitude and appreciation for that. It's, sometimes we don't do that enough, especially nowadays. So I want to make sure that how I, am remembered and my mark in the community is always giving back, always doing whatever I can do to encourage others and show that it's attainable and not be the person that's standoffish or too cool or not approachable. I want that, loud, like crazy, like just always has a good story to shine through, and also, encourage others to follow suit.
So what have you accomplished? Like, what has being a part of this running community helped you with? What has leading Trail Sisters? What has all this stuff? Like, what are some of the things that you've done in this running journey?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin because sometimes I look back and I'm like, how is this possible? But I mean, I look at the training logs and I'm like, a lot of hard work, a lot of grinding. Like, there's a lot of people that are there's a lot of people that are very, very, very talented. And for me, it's just the consistent grind. And I think, setting FKTs, thanks to my husband, being part of the world team representing USA at the 100K championship last December, podiuming at the US 100K champs, winning Strolling Gym. I mean, I can't believe it. And it's weird. I don't like talking about things that I've done because it's just unbelievable to me. And I don't even know how, but I'm very grateful to be able to have the opportunities to do those things.
And I think it's important when we think about community as you look back on your own accomplishments, I wonder how much you can also remember the not struggle runs, but just any of the runs that went into training for those races, the people who were right alongside you, the accountability that they gave you, the welcoming that they gave you. What are some areas, what are some groups that kind of stick out as you think back along that journey that have been there, that have supported you, that have lifted you up in your journey?
Oh my gosh. That would take all day. Maybe the rest of 2025 because it takes a village. I mean, first and foremost, I definitely would not be able to do all this without my husband, Ben. And we actually met through running on Strava. So, first and foremost, I always have to say my gratitude and obviously love for my husband, because you want to talk about someone that always believes in you, signs you up for races that you don't think you can do, and surprises you on Valentine's Day. Not saying that really happened, but yeah. So I'm forever grateful for that. And, starting off running, really taking it serious, was just like a local Dunwoody group and meeting at 5 a.m., always there, never left anyone behind. Even if you forgot your nutrition or needed a water bottle, someone always had something or a good story, or just knowing like they're going through the same thing too. And if you need a walk, we walk. Like there was no pressure. There was no ego. And that's what was wonderful. And through that group, I was able to meet other local run groups, and also local running stores like Big Peach in Atlanta really helped flourish that community aspect in my life. And also in terms of trail running, I would have a group that met every Thursday, and without fail, it was always what we did. And those guys were probably some of the premier trail runners in the South, and the fact that they were like, come join, showed that, there was also no ego, and that, they weren't talking about everything that they did. It was just running and just having fun, goofing off. And I really treasure those runs with that group. And, once again, it keeps me in mind when I'm leading a group and how I want the whole mantra and spirit of community to be. I mean, I could go on and on for all the different run groups that I'm a part of. And I think it just shows in just going for a run and literally, and my friends will always make fun of me for this, is I don't think I can go for a run without seeing someone I know, which is just wonderful because it's just always good to see a friendly face, especially with how busy our lives can be and so much going on. that it's always good that, to see someone and just, yes, you should keep up and text them and call them and schedule run, but just the friendly wave, just always knows that like, oh, it's good to see that they're out there too.
And so you talk about then, starting Trail Sisters and beginning to create community and be a part of that process. And you talk about wanting to empower women in trail running. What else is behind that story of starting Trail Sisters?
I think it's also just seeing a lack of women out on the trails. Like I talked about the group that I was in, I was usually the only female, and showing up at races and not seeing a lot, and wanting to have that kind of girl gang, if you will, and support, and knowing that there's so many talented women, especially in the South, that why not have a place where they can grow and get the confidence, and also just encouragement and having that community and a place where they can feel comfortable doing it. So it was like, I'm a person where I'm not going to just sit around and complain about it. I want to do something about it. And I know one of the Trail Sister leaders was leaving, so there was a position open. So I wanted to make sure that even with her leaving, there was still that spirit that was carrying on.
And what sort of work have you done beyond Trail Sisters, beyond the Atlanta community, in this space of trying to make the trails a more inclusive place? I know it might be hard to say, but even maybe like a more safe place for women.
Well, one thing I also do is I am the director of Fastest Known Time, the website. And one thing that I love that's going on is Women Who FKT is a group that's really trying to get more women to set FKTs, because if you go on the site, there's a lot of male names, but there's not a lot of women or non-binary. So I love and I support them and encourage them, and try to do whatever I can to make sure that women feel represented. Just giving out the FKT of the Year awards, seeing someone like Tara Dower setting the overall Appalachian Trail FKT is so incredible. And, hearing her story of dealing with imposter syndrome and so many things that people can relate with, and say, all right, if she feels that way, but she can still achieve these goals, anyone can do it. And the fact that she raised over $100,000 for Girls on the Run too, just shows that her community spirit is so inspiring, and just putting a spotlight on people like her.
And for me, just seeing that, I saw it all over my Facebook. I'm not, deeply embedded in the trail community whatsoever, but even to see stuff like that, and I hate to even, say it, but when I looked at it and I saw it, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, Fastest Known Time and, just inherent masculine nature that I stupidly am sometimes, just said, oh, cool, fastest female ever. And then like one of my buddies actually, he's like, no, dude, it was like actually like the fastest person. How much do you think that those kind of steps of, having that visibility in the FKT community, and for those of you who are strictly road runners, especially within this, there's a lot to be, even just taking attempts at fastest known times and what that looks like, and to be involved in the ultra trail community. What has that meant for you to kind of be a part of this journey for those women, to help them so that they feel empowered, so that you feel empowered, so that you can kind of help change this narrative where it's like, no, we're women and we're badass.
Yeah, I mean, it's just starting local. We're telling people they can create their own route. Obviously, it can't be a Strava segment, but just something iconic that other people would want to replicate, and just trying to limit the barriers to entry. I mean, that's what the beauty of running is. There is a very low barrier to entry. You can do it on your time, your schedule. any season, well, most seasons. But so having that, it's a great platform and also a way to kind of set goals. You see a time, you see a place and saying, all right, let's see if I can do that. And just have something that keeps you accountable when you announce, hey, I'm going to go after this. It's kind of like, all right, I've kind of put it out there. And also, I think it's a very supportive community where people want to encourage it. And if you ask someone that probably holds a record or that, is familiar with the route, they'd be happy to share experiences, data on that route, and will probably encourage you to go for it. I know that's been my experience with some of the FKTs that I've personally set, and then I've also witnessed among the community.
One of the, I think, probably most forgotten parts of, or most unknown parts of trail running, I might say, is probably the way that crewing works and those who kind of help along the journey. I know even I wasn't 100% aware of it until I read Scott Jurek's book about his journey on the AT and really seeing what that journey looks like and how important and vital those auxiliary people are in that. What sort of comparisons do you draw between those who are helping to crew you, or if you're helping to crew others, and what we're doing for one another in the running community more broadly?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for any, I think, ultra or just in general, like having a crew is such a key component in your success, and having someone that kind of is your brain, especially the further and further that you go, and that knows you and can anticipate your needs, just makes you feel comfortable as the runner and makes you feel at ease that everything is taken care of, just like a pacer. You have someone that's doing the hard leg work. I mean, you still have to run the miles, but someone that's got your bottles ready, your nutrition ready, a jacket, a change of shoes, maybe a bandage kit, maybe some extra Vaseline or squirrel's nut butter, whatever you may need to anticipate your needs and do all the kind of legwork for you, so that you just have to show up, say what you need, say yes or no, grab a bottle and go. Crew is so important. And also volunteers, like when we have aid stations and people that, are handing out water at a local 5K. I think it's so important to volunteer and be on the other side of the race, not just being the runner, but the volunteer, to really have a sense of gratitude and appreciation for what people do and what people go through from the front, middle, and back of the pack. It really gives a sense of gratitude for the running community, that people show up at 3 a.m. to fill up those water bottles for you, set up the tents, put up the cones and everything.
Yeah. And it's those often hidden parts of the community that we maybe take for granted. I don't know anybody in a marathon that's taken advantage of a water stop or anything like that, but you may use the water stop, grab that cup of water, but do you know, like, maybe where the people who gave you the water are from, or where they're volunteering from, what they're doing, what they might be sacrificing in that time? I think that's such a great and crucial part of this as well, to help make sure that a lot of these races go off and happen. And I think it's I think it's a great comparison, thinking about, the crews that help folks do these FKTs. You have somebody more often than not who is journeying with you. Now, most of the times they're journeying with you in a car that is kind of going along the trail. Sometimes they may share some miles with you, but it's really how they're coming along and helping to make sure it's, like you said, what is this person going to need at any point in time? I know that a lot of times, the crew and the runner will sit down for months beforehand, preparing every single, inch of a course, making sure, hey, I need water here. And, then they're the ones who are left to try and find things around when, maybe a road's blocked or a station is blocked. They're the ones who are going and scoping stuff. What has your experience been like then as well? Whether you're crewing for other people or you're volunteering with the Atlanta Track Club, you say you have a good volunteer record with the Atlanta Track Club. So what's that kind of stuff like beyond pacing, I'll say?
Oh my gosh. How do I start with that? First, with Atlanta Track Club, it's always fun to volunteer because you see the same group of people volunteering, and it's just so fun. Everyone's got a positive mindset. They're the race. They're excited to encourage others and direct others and answer questions, and want to make sure that everyone has all of the logistics ahead of time. So there's one less thing to worry about, whether it's the course, road closures, whatever they need. Especially because I'll do a lot at like a packet pickup or a expo, and just, you see a lot of people. You can pick out those first time runners out, and you're just like, all right, like, what do you need? How can I make this easier for you? Make you less worried, make you feel comfortable that this race is going to be great. You're going to have a great experience. So making sure you anticipate those needs and whatever people want. And I think it's also seeking out these opportunities. I think people may not know about volunteering, and I think Track Club does a really good job of listing them out and also giving incentives. They always give a lot of great swag and discounts for volunteering, or also just community hours. I know a lot of trail races sometimes require that, which is great because while you shouldn't need something to make you want to volunteer, it's always good that you get to see that aspect of what goes into preparing for a race and going into like crewing. And for me, I love to plan. I love to know what's the list, what's going to be needed, just so you can help anticipate anything. And then, you're less, I guess, troubleshooting and problem solving on the fly when you have all the resources. Obviously, you can plan all you want, and then you get punched in the face, like Mike Tyson would say. And you just have to go with the flow. And I think that's why you see a lot of ultra runners are very chill, very relaxed, because not all the things go your way. You can get lost. You can miss a flag. You can miss a bottle, or, a nutrition may not be settling right. But you just got to say, all right, something, you just got to go with flow, put one foot in front of the other, weather, you got to just chill, and also just have that mindset that you chose to be here. You paid to be here. It's a choice. Like, be grateful that you get to do things like this and all that.
I love that. Yeah, I hear that all the time. It's like you get to do this. It's not something you have to do. It's something you get to do. And I love the idea of encouraging folks to volunteer, because I think it's so important and so vital. Here in Hampton Roads, where I am, we have 2-3 dozen races a year. We probably have more than that, but that's probably just like the bigger ones that are more well known. If you break it down, there's probably at least one race every weekend, except for maybe the middle of July, where it is 1,000 degrees with 1,000,000% humidity. Yeah. It's the humidity that's going to kill you always. I don't care what anybody says. And I love that, because in a lot of ways it helps us appreciate more when we do the races, when we are on there. My run club, we try and volunteer to race a year. I know I've done a lot of volunteer at races as well, to really help and gain a gratefulness for what it takes to actually bring this community together for these big moments. So, Allison, as we wrap up here, there's been great conversation. I've got a few end of podcast questions. We're going to start off with a little this or that. Speed work or long run?
Long run.
Okay. Morning or evening run?
Morning.
Summer or winter?
Oof. I always have this debate. I would say right now, winter.
What do you listen to while you run?
I love rap music.
All right. What's your favorite distance to race?
Oh my gosh. Probably 50 mile.
And finally, Allison, can you give our listeners a reason to join their local run club or group?
Oh, because you never know who you're going to meet and hear a good story from.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
What a great episode. Again, I love when my guests bring that energy, that passion for the running community and all over. You know, I honestly really love getting trail runners in here and talking about what it means to have community out on the trails, what it looks like, what it means to do it during a race. I mean, I know, it's been a while, but I love having these folks who they sometimes have a different experience of the running community because their running is different. A lot of us tend to just stick to the roads or, do what we might see as what makes us comfortable. And yet we have a whole other aspect of community that is out there doing trails, that is forming community in and of themselves. And it's a place where we can learn. It's a place where we can experience, right? If you've never been running on the trails, find a local trail running group and join them for a trail run. I will admit, it's different. It's something new. It's something different. And sometimes that kind of different can be great. So I want to thank Allison for bringing her experience, for bringing who she is, for bringing what she's done on the run. And I want to continue to encourage you to get out into your communities, to find those ways to connect. If you want to keep up with Allison, you can follow her over on Instagram and Strava, see what she's up to, all the amazing things, and continue to build this community out. And lastly, I want to thank you for hanging out with me on this episode of Run, Build, Grow. If you are here and you came here because of Allison, what a special joy it is to have you listening into this episode. And I would love it if you would make sure to follow or subscribe to this episode. Go back and listen to some of the previous episodes that I've had. If you're looking for the person that recommended Allison, that was Adam Vadabancourt, who was back on episode 42, back on November the 8th. So rush back, listen to that episode with Adam, and then check out some other episodes in the feed. If you are a regular here, thank you so much for your support, and I pray that you would continue to support this podcast, support my journey in this. Make sure to head on over to runbuildgrow.com. There are different ways to support me there. Make sure to follow or subscribe on the podcast. Make sure you're getting these episodes as soon as they come out. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, continue to help the podcast to grow. Leave ratings, reviews. If you're on Spotify, drop a comment. Again, as always, those comments and those reviews I will read on the next episode after they get posted. And so please leave those and give a shout out, because that helps folks discover the show. It helps let me know what is resonating with you. And if you want to go that extra mile, if you love this episode with Allison, if this is your first time here or you're a long-time listener and you want to support the show, if you just want to leave a one-time tip, say, man, this was an awesome episode. I love the joy. I love the spirit. Go over to buymeacoffee.com/runandrev. You can drop a one-time tip. 5, 10, whatever, however much you would like to leave that you think this episode was awesome, leave a little note and I'll read that note off. And you know what? If you're a regular listener to this podcast and you want to find a way to continue to help to support this journey, to continue to make it everything you can also become a regular supporter, contribute each month to help this podcast network continue to grow. Don't forget to connect with me over on Instagram, Blue Sky, Strava, Substack. You're going to find all of those links in the show notes. I'm beginning to post a little bit more regularly over on Substack. So if you want to keep on hearing more musings about running, about community, about my faith, about all of that stuff, head on over there and subscribe. I want to thank you for being here and for being part of this journey. Until next time, go crush it out there. And as always, make every mile count.